Wow, I never realized how much the Black Sea looks like Australia. It's kind of like if it weren't for Crimea, it would really look like Australia. Anyway, give me a minute and let's talk about the storm of the century. So, this like blizzard hurricane thing blew across the Black Sea this past weekend. And boy, it really did some damage. We had sustained winds of 60 miles an hour, gusts up to 90 miles an hour. We saw storm surge. I don't know if you can read it there, 9.6 meters, over 30 feet. Cold, icy rain, wind, snow, blizzard conditions up north that had motorists stranded and the emergency services personnel out on the roads rescuing people from their cars. And what I want to focus on in this is what damage it did to the Russian defenses, particularly of Crimea, because Crimea, of course, was completely exposed. Now, at this time, and we're 48 hours out from the end of the storm, there's about half the population of Crimea is still without power. In the non-occupied territories of Ukraine, power has been restored to virtually everybody. But in Crimea, about 500,000 people are still without power. And that may have been complicated because we saw transformers blow at a power station in Sevastopol last night. Or at least we think that's what happened. It could have been a drone attack. We don't believe it was a missile attack. We don't know what happened to that power station, but a power station burned badly in Sevastopol last night, and that complicated the situation. Now, if we look back to this past summer, one of the things that we saw the Russians do was along, oh gosh, I think it's about 140 miles, maybe it's 140 kilometers. I apologize. It's something like that. But it's a big long stretch, maybe about 100 miles of the western shore of Crimea, where the Russians were concerned about an amphibious assault. And so what they did was they placed, can you see those little marks there in the sand? Those are dragon's teeth. So those are those coke cones that are about 4 or 5 feet high, made out of steel reinforced concrete. And they're placed there to prevent amphibious landings. And then you can see the trench, the extensive trench network that's been dug, as well as the pillbox fortifications on the hillside and some other fortifications there. That's sand. Remember the parable of the man who builds his house on sand? Not a good move. Now sure, way above the high tide line, shouldn't have been a problem. Storm of the century comes through, the Black Sea comes pouring in, and bang, it's gone. It's gone, baby. The dragon's teeth, 100 miles of dragon's teeth and trenches, they're all gone. Washed out to sea. Those trenches, of course, just sand. You ever dig a hole in the beach, right? And when the high tide comes in, when it goes out, there's no more hole. Same thing here. This is all worthless. You may remember that around the Kerch Bridge, those floating divider kind of things that you would, like imagine giant ones that you put in your pool to separate the deep end from the shallow end, right? Well, they had these big floating barriers to prevent sea drones from approaching the Crimean Bridge. We got a satellite image today. Where are they? There's no sign of them. I mean, who knows, right? They could have been torn from their moorings and drifted into shore, or they could have been torn from the moorings and they're tied up around the base of the bridge. But regardless of where they are, they ain't where they supposed to be. That's for sure. And so now, right now, sea drones have a straight shot at the bridge. And we just saw the Ukrainians launched 2 S-300 missiles, maybe at the Kerch Bridge. It's not clear. Air defense took them down, but with the S-200 missiles, that's pretty much what you expect to happen. The Ukrainians use them as decoys. They got a lot of them. They're easy to shoot down. So the Ukrainians send them in first to test and discover the location of air defenses. And as decoys, so that air defense spends time trying to shoot them down instead of shooting down the expensive and rare Neptune, Scalps, and Storm Shadows. So we might just see a hit coming up on the Kerch Bridge. There may be an opportunity here if the weather can just stay nice. Now, in my favorite thing that the Russians lost in the storm, are you ready for this? I love this so much. The pen that the trained dolphins in Sevastopol Harbor are kept in was broken open and the dolphins escaped. So these trained dolphins that are used to alert harbor personnel to the presence of divers, to plant explosives, that kind of thing. Simple tasks. Apparently they are swimming free today, just like Ukraine will be soon. So that's kind of a wrap up of the major storm damage to the defenses of Crimea. And I do hope that the Ukrainians have the opportunity to take advantage of these changes to the battlefield. Thank you, folks. Oh, hey, big shout out to a friend of the channel, Ricky Balbo, who sponsored this video. Ricky has been a real supporter since early on. And as always, Ricky, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Take care.